Hey guys, TastyTacos here. I put this video together to take you through my build for the Ultimatum leak, which has been Cold Reap Miner. The build actually started off as kind of a meme project with a friend after asking the question, what's the coolest looking skill that we could pair with the Tremor Rod? But actually after playing the build a little bit and seeing how much damage it was dealing, I realised this isn't a meme. What I like most about this build though is actually not how much damage it does, it's more the general playstyle and feel of the thing. Because Reap's a spell, when we put it in the Tremor Rod, which has the Blast Chain Mine support, it casts in sort of an intelligent way. It picks out the nearest enemies and makes sure to swing at them rather than wherever the mine lands. And because we're getting a few different mine throws and 2 detonations off the Tremor Rod, you kind of, without that many clicks, create these massive area of effects of Reap swings that sort of freeze everything and, without really that much thinking on your part, decimate everything that you come across. The build actually came in 2 versions. Originally I was doing like a physical scaling power charge based thing, but it wasn't quite popping off. It's just really hard to make power charges work when they're not that close to all the mine stuff on the tree and they're really expensive. So after a load of late nights looking at how I could actually get the tree to be as maximized as I possibly could, I think I landed on something that was kind of special. After killing Uber Elder, Maven and Feared, I thought this could be something that people would actually be curious to see. So I worked on min-maxing the build a little bit, rounding it off, and then putting together this guide. So let's get stuck in. Obviously the main item you need is your 6-link Tremor Rod. This is probably actually the most expensive part of the core kit, going for 1.6 exalts at the moment. On top of that, you need a Watcher's Eye. In particular, you need the fizz damage converted to cold while affected by hatred. You actually don't need any other mods specifically. When I killed Awaken at 8, I actually had basically a bricked Watcher's Eye otherwise. Someone had clearly tried to roll some 130x mods and they weren't good, and they had put that up for 20c, so I thought, let's do it. You need a Thread of Hope, small one, so not even the most expensive one, and you need a couple of Circle of Fears. Now again, these are all things that you could either spend a little on or spend a lot on, but for the core components, what's going to get you most of your damage, yeah, you don't need to break the bank over them. In terms of the skill tree, as you can see, it's fairly optimized. We've got 2 clusters squeezed in there, along with loads of crit chance, loads of crit multi, and loads of mine stuff. The key nodes, successive detonations, what they basically mean is they synergize really well with Blast Chain Mine, because it means that the more detonations you do, the more crit chance and crit multi you have. Blast Cascade is where we generate our power charges. High Explosive gives us 10% LE resistance penetration, which is low-key super busted. And Winter Spirit and its sibling node next to it is where we get a fair chunk of our cold conversion. In terms of the items that I'm running, I run a Crown of the Inward Eye, and I also have a Glorious Vanity. That gives me a fair bit of tankiness. It's kind of all I need. For the enchant on the helmet, you want Reap deals 40% increased damage. Usually the Blood Charges enchant is actually more damage for Reap builds, but mines unfortunately can't generate Blood Charges, so that's not quite as relevant here. In terms of the belt, I have a Darkness Enthroned. I've socketed that with a couple of eye jewels, which give me extra cold damage to spells. That's really helpful. And just in terms of adding to those spell damage jewels, for the passive tree, you may as well get as many crit multi jewels as you can, potentially cold damage jewels as well. In terms of my boots, I've got Series Step. They're just good for dodginess and evasion. That's kind of what our build focuses on in terms of tankiness, so may as well keep that vibe going. Gloves, really, to be honest, nothing on the gloves. You basically need an open prefix for the cold conversion benchcraft. That one you unlock through Betrayal, but you can also buy it if you don't have it. You need on your amulet, it doesn't really matter what amulet you have, just as long as you can anoint counterweight. I have got a, I think that's called an amber amulet, and I have lots of crit multi and spell damage. If you can get plus level to physical spell skill gems, that's great. That gives you a fair bit of damage. And I would say a shirt in this build is entirely optional, depending on how sexy you want to be when you're running through bosses. I have one. The best mod you can get on a shirt is obviously Ellie resistances. If you can balance them for the Wise Oak, that's great. But otherwise, if you can get added spell crit chance, that can push your Reap crit chance to 100%, which is great. You never miss a crit. Just in general, worth mentioning, there's no elevated mods, there's no double influence, there's no complex crafts. I didn't faff about with any of that stuff. I built this from the ground up, and it kind of ended up working quite well on the budget gear that we had. How do the skills work? So you have a Reap 6 link, or kind of 7 link if you include the Blast Chain Mine off of the Tremor Rod, which is, we paired that with loads of damage, exactly what you expect, added cold damage, cold pen, all the rest of that stuff, and Swift Assembly. So Swift Assembly doesn't really add that much damage, but it does really add to the quality of life in playing the build. On my left click, I have a Vortex, which is supported by Bone Shield and Cold to Fire with Arcane Surge. The Cold to Fire may look a little bit funny there. It's actually because if enemies are ignited as the Saboteur, you have 40% extra crit multiplier on them. So if you can get Bone Chill and them ignited by kind of running around on top of them before you kill them, that really helps your damage. We have a cost when damage taken with some mobility. In terms of the auras, we've got Hatred, Precision, Summon Skitterbots, and Herald of Ice, as you'd expect. And then we've got like an Arcanist brand with a few debuffs on it. We've got the Frost Bomb, which applies the exposure, and then we've also got Blade Blast, and we've also got Assassin's Mark. In terms of little extra damage buffs, we've got a Vile Cold Snap, where we get our Frenzy charges, and we've got a Vile Righteous Fire, which obviously just gives us extra spell damage. Calculating the average damage per second for Reap Mines is actually really tricky for a few reasons. Firstly, it's really hard to calculate damage per second for mines because they come in bursts. You throw them, they disappear, you throw them, they disappear. And then, of course, they speed up and slow down because of the Blast Chain Mine support changing the mine detonation time. But on top of that, Path of Building doesn't really handle when Reap doesn't use blood charges. So I've had to then take all of those off and try and get this to work. That being said, I think we've gotten some numbers that are fairly accurate here. I've done some more general timings for how many mines you can get per second when you're just in flow throwing mines, and then how many mines that you can get at sort of maximum burst if you're looking to burst down a boss. So how the numbers look: one mine with 4 damage flasks is, from my character export, 1.5 million base Reap average hit, which with 100% crit chance and 680% crit multi is about 8.5 million per mine. When I ran the numbers, I was able to get about 5 mines down per second inflow. I was actually able to get 6 down, but I thought I'd take it off because I think a couple don't get detonated. So that's around 40 million DPS, which is the number that you've seen in the video. But actually for the max burst, I think you can get 6 to 8 mines, which is pushing you up to a kind of cap of around 70 million if you can really optimize it. Of course, when you're mapping, you're not necessarily going to have your damage flasks, you're going to have your mapping flasks up, so I thought I'd do some numbers on general tankiness when you're doing that kind of other stuff. You've got about 4k life in ES. It's not great, but it is enough. This is an evasion and dodge based build, so 4k life should be plenty to kind of like tank the odd hit, especially when it casts when damage taken. 15k evasion rating means an 80% evade chance. You've got 52% attack dodge and 58% spell dodge, and you've got 155% move speed. So generally, it's actually fairly well rounded for mapping. It feels very comfortable, especially given that you can typically kill anything before it gets to you, and anything that you don't kill gets frozen. Anyway guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the build. If you fancy playing it next league, shoot me a message. I'd be really curious to see what you can do with it, and if you can make it deal more damage than I can, because I'm sure there's someone out there that can. Otherwise, shoot me a like and follow me on Twitch. See you later.